Hi friends, Jen here with Serenity Hill Farmstead. Today I want to talk about 5 herbs that are really good herbs for kids. 5 herbs that I want to make sure that I always have stocked in my home apothecary. Now first things first, if you see me swatting at things and bugs dive bombing my face, you see all these little ladybugs here in Illinois. It is October and they are pulling their fields. So when farmers start pulling their beans and their corn, the ladybugs and the box elder bugs come out of the woodwork and they start trying to get into people's houses and trying to get into warm places for the winter. So they're everywhere. So if I'm swatting and there's bugs dive bombing me, we're just going to ignore that today. So like I said, 5 herbs that we want to keep on hand for kids. Now these 5 herbs that I am going to see, they're starting already. These 5 herbs that I am going to mention today are 5 herbs that are very easy to use. They're very easy to get hold of. You can grow them yourself with minimal work. They're pretty easy herbs to grow. They don't have a whole lot of pests or disease or problems with them. And if you want to just purchase them, they're very easy to get a hold of. I will put some links of my favorite places to purchase herbs down in the show notes down below if you want to check those out. So the first herb I want to talk about today is lemon balm. Now lemon balm is a very gentle but very powerful herb. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say right now that all these herbs are very gentle, yet very powerful. So when I say herbs are very gentle, but very powerful, let me explain what that means. Because if you're new to herbalism, you could be like, what are you talking about? That totally contradicts itself. So when I say that herbs are gentle, I mean that you can take them on their own. You can make it an infusion. You can take it as a tincture. You can take it as a glycerite. You can take it in any kind of way, and it's not going to cause any side effects. You're not going to have to worry about contraindications. You're not going to have to worry about any kind of drug interactions or anything like that. So that's what I mean by very gentle. Potent means they can still pack a punch. Like they are still very efficient at what they do. They still work really, really well. And in most cases, really fast. So this is what I mean by herbs are gentle, yet still very powerful. So lemon balm's properties. So all herbs have properties, right? They all have jobs. The properties are the jobs that they do. Lemon balm is a nervine, and I will explain what all these are, but it is a nervine, has antidepressant properties, it has antiviral properties, has diaphoretic properties, and has antiseptic property. So what does all that mean? So your nervine property is something that is good and helpful and supportive for your nervous system. So it's going to be very calming, it's going to be very relaxing, it's going to help calm your nerves. In some cases, especially with kids when they've got like that nervous gut, it can help kind of soothe a tummy ache if they're really anxious or nervous, maybe going back to school or changing of routines when we're going back to school. A diaphoretic herb is an herb that will induce sweating. So lemon balm is one that is really helpful for cold and flu season, also that antiviral property in there. The reason that diaphoretic property is so important with colds and flus is because we can have fevers with colds and flus. So when a fever pops up, one of the natural ways that you can help support the body to help break the fever is by taking a diaphoretic. So a diaphoretic herb is something that will induce sweating. It'll help promote kind of purging of the toxins of the sickness and help get you sweating to help break that fever. They're climbing in my shirt. So for that reason, the diaphoretic property is really helpful here for cold and flu season, also that antiviral and antiseptic properties. Now there have been some studies, and I will link down below a website that I like to use to look up herbs and specific studies that have been done on there because it's the facts. It's not opinions, it's not how certain organizations or groups or doctors or what have you will twist and turn things. You know how things are. It's not like that. It is very much this is the group of people, this is the problem, this is what we did, these were the results. And that is PubMed. So I will link that down below if you want to check that out. Occasionally they bite and it hurts. Okay, but there have been studies on how lemon balm can be really helpful with improving cognition. So things like memory and focus in kids. So definitely check that out because that's very interesting. If you are interested in that, if your kid would benefit from that, definitely something to look at. So my next favorite herb for my kids is mullein, especially coming into winter. I have a couple kids that do have asthma, and mullein is a very, very good herb to help with the lungs. So it is what we call a tonic herb, which means you can take it for a long period of time multiple times during the day, and you don't have to worry about side effects or interactions. Again, it's a very gentle but very potent herb. Now with mullein, it's very important that you are just using the leaf. Now there are a lot of videos out there and a lot of other herbalists and just people in general that swear by using the whole plant for this. I'm going to link one of my videos down below that talks about the 3 different specific parts of mullein and how they should be used. Now, when you are talking to 10 different herbalists, I've said this before in many different videos, you are going to get 10 different opinions. This is my opinion, my experience based off of my education and what I have hands-on experience with. So if you want to check that out, I'll link that down there below. That is mullein used 3 different ways. When we are talking about supporting the lungs, you want the leaf. The leaf has all of these really wonderful demulcent, which is like the mucilage in it. That's the part that's going to help balance the mucous membrane so you're not having dry coughs, or if you have a cough that's super productive, it helps kind of knock that stuff down so you're not overproducing mucus. That's the mucilent, the demulcent property. It also has expectorant properties, and that's the part that helps you cough the stuff up, actually loosen it up and get it out so it's not getting in there and causing infections, or it can spread to secondary infections, like that can get into your sinuses and just sit there and cause sinus infections, ear infections, throat infections, not things we want, right? So it's got that. And then of course that tonic property, so something that you can take on a daily, regular, consistent, multiple times a day kind of basis. Doesn't have any interactions, doesn't have any kind of side effects. Love, 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 love mullein for this. If you have kids that don't have asthma, still keep this one on hand, because if you've got cold, you've got the flu, you've got COVID, if you've got any numerous things that kids are going to come across going into the winter months, this is a really nice one to have on hand to help tone the lungs. So toning the lungs means basically getting them back to where they should be at. It helps to support healthy lung function. Now, when you're taking mullein, you want to take the mullein leaf as a tea, specifically a warm tea. A lot of these herbs you can take in multiple different ways, like lemon balm, super tasty lemon balm. It really does smell and taste a little lemony. Not overpowering, it's not like sucking on a lemon, you know, but it does have that nice light lemony flavor. Mullein, on the other hand, has like a light kind of earthy flavor, and honestly, I like to mix it with other things. One of the things that I really like to mix it with is rose hips, and that's got a nice boost of vitamin C also. And you can also mix it with chamomile if you really like chamomile, which is another herb we're going to talk about. That is a really nice flavor too. You can add the lemon balm in there too if you want, but mullein by itself is not a strong, overwhelming kind of flavor. It's very gentle, very mild. But the reason that we want to go ahead and use this as a warm tea, as a what we call standard infusion, just making regular hot tea, is because of 2 things. Number 1, it better releases the herbal properties from the herb so that you are getting the most, potent amount of herbal medicine that you possibly can, to put it simply. And because when you are sitting there with a cup of hot tea, you also should be breathing in those vapors with mullein, because those properties are also in the steam. Man, they're getting bad, aren't they? They're also in the steam, so you can breathe in those vapors, and it helps to decongest the sinuses. It helps to open the airways. It really is just very soothing to the entire respiratory system. So now let's move into chamomile. Chamomile is one of my absolute favorites because it serves so many purposes. I'm going to start with something just kind of really quick and simple. If your kid has pink eye, chamomile compresses. So what we do for that, and we kind of came across this kind of accidentally because I had asked in an herbal forum when I had a child that had really severe pink eye, and we found out that he's allergic to the drops. So it was giving him really severe nosebleeds and headaches and some rash issues. And I'm like, this is an allergy. We're not going to do this anymore. And it took 3 doses for me to really figure out that it was an allergy, because that's when the rash showed up. Well, I asked in a forum and they said, well, have you tried chamomile compresses? Well, no, I have not. So we made some chamomile tea, put it in the fridge, did a cold infusion, and then we just put some compresses in there. The roosters are very talkative today. Put the compresses in there, squeeze the excess just so it's not dripping down his face, and just held it on there. Now, if you want to use both the chamomile compresses and the eye drops, you can totally do that too, because this is not an either or. Is it necessary to use both? That is a call that is up to you. For us, we have found it very effective to just use the chamomile compresses. If you have any secondary issues or infections going into eye sockets, like into your orbital cavity in here or going into your sinuses, then that's something you can discuss with your doctor and figure out which way you want to go. But if you want to use both, you want to make sure that you are alternating. So chamomile eye compresses, and then a couple hours later, eye drops. So if you're doing eye drops first thing in the morning, last thing at night is typically how they prescribe that. You do eye drops, a couple hours later, you do compresses. Then later you can do compresses throughout the day, and then later on you do, your last compress, and then you do your eye drops before bed. And that's how you would handle something like that. Now, something really important to remember too, with any kind of infection, you don't want to keep dipping the same compress in your tea, because then you are spreading that infection into your tea and contaminating your tea. You can make one batch of tea, keep it in, make a strong chamomile tea, cold infusion, keep it in that fridge, and just let it sit there while you're dealing with it. It's totally fine to sit there for 4 or 5 days. It's fine for that one. And every single time you do a compress, you use a new compress. You do not dip that now contaminated compress back into your tea. You're not trying to create, a cesspool of infection in your tea. We don't want to do that. That'll just spread it. That will not help you get control of the infection. Chamomile can also be used for like fever blisters, cold sores, things like that. So if your kid's really sick and there's mouth sores involved, that's something that can be really helpful too. If they have strep throat and they can get, all of that just rawness in the back of their throat, that's something that's really soothing that can help knock down some of that sensitivity and inflammation also. So many other things chamomile is good for, and they almost all have to do with the gut. Chamomile is so soothing. It's got that nervine property. It's also antispasmodic. It's carminative. It is a diaphoretic. So all those properties. Let's talk about that. The diaphoretic, we talked about, it helps induce a sweat. The carminative property helps to get rid of gas in the body. So if you are super bloated after a meal, if your kiddo has eaten a bunch of candy after Halloween or something, has a stomach ache, is getting really bloated, something is just not agreeing with them. If they have mild food allergies that can really wreak havoc on their gut, chamomile is a good one. One of our kids has a dairy sensitivity and has some kind of secondary IBS kind of symptoms with that. And what we do for that is we give a combination of lemon balm and chamomile, because they're both really soothing for the gut. Naturally, when kids have abdominal pain, their anxiety goes through the roof. So that helps kind of calm that anxious reaction to that pain. And then they can also get some relief with that bloating with that carminative property. Now, you've heard it said like that brain-gut connection, that your gut is like your second brain. It's very true. There is nerves and blood vessels that go from your brain to your gut. Specifically, some big nerves that go from your brain to your gut. And when you are nervous, when you are emotionally overwhelmed, when you have a big change in routine, when you are exhausted, your gut becomes very reactive and very sensitive, specifically in children. So chamomile is really good at helping to lower cortisol levels, or stress hormone. And it's also really good at supporting the liver. It's helpful at reducing, like we said, the gas and the bloating. Also really good for helping to calm any spasming that's happening there. It's also fabulous for babies with colic. Oh, how I wish I knew this with my first child, because he was so colicky and I had no knowledge of herbs back then. So I just had a rough go with it. It was him. It was his rough go. And if I would have known how life-changing chamomile is for babies with colic, the sleep we could have had, it would have been wonderful. But if you have a baby or maybe a grandbaby that really struggles with colic, or if you have a girlfriend with a baby that is just really going through it right now, suggest chamomile. Just do a real kind of a weak tea for a really young baby, and just a couple drops, kind of the way you would give the gas drops, just a couple drops in the side of the cheek of that chamomile tea helps to break that apart, helps to soothe the belly, to calm the body. Really gentle, no side effects, wonderful, wonderful herb, and it's delicious too, and it smells incredible. And the last thing that I want to talk about with chamomile is you want to keep that on hand specifically for stomach flu season, which is coming up, because what does it go in the public school? It's usually colds, flus, strep throat, then stomach flu. I don't know if that's the way it is in your area, but that's the way it is here, and we're about there, folks. So stomach flu season is rapidly coming up upon us here, and that one basically helps to keep everything calm. Like, you know, if you're repeatedly vomiting or having constant bouts of diarrhea, the cramping that happens, and it's partially from the virus, partially from dehydration, but the cramping that happens with that is so severe, and your gut just feels like you've been repeatedly sucker punched. And that really helps to calm everything down, and it helps to kind of get control of it. So that's very helpful if your kids don't drink tea. Okay, because this is a thing, right? If kids don't want to drink tea, you can always do tinctures or glycerides. We do tinctures because I'm not a super big fan of glycerides. That can be for another video, or if you are interested in why, you can drop a question in the comments and I can answer you there. But I prefer tinctures for my kids. It's a super teeny tiny amount of alcohol, and I always mix it with stuff anyway. So I'm comfortable with it, but not everybody is. So another option for using chamomile is you can put it in different kinds of foods. You can make gummies. I've heard of people making popsicles with it, which would actually be really nice for cold and flu. You can make Jell-O, and instead of adding water, you can add chamomile tea for the hot water part of it if you're going to make Jell-O. So there's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate chamomile. It is very versatile, and it just covers so many things. Definitely a must-have. Now, the last two herbs we're going to talk about, I'm going to kind of talk about them together because I feel like they need to be talked about together. And that is elderberry and echinacea. So going into cold and flu season, people jump on the elderberry bandwagon most commonly. And not to be surprised by that at all. And there's nothing wrong with using elderberry. However, it's not necessarily the best herb if you are going after prevention. Now, first I want to talk about the properties of both, and then I wrote them all down. So we're going to refer to my notes here. For elderberry, it is anti-inflammatory, antiviral, a decongestant, a diaphoretic, and a febrifuge, which means basically it helps cut fever. With echinacea, it is a blood purifier, an antiseptic, antiviral, immune stimulant, and a lymphatic herb. Those are not all the properties, but those are the ones pertinent to what we're talking about right now. So very familiar, very similar, right? There's crossover there, especially when it comes to the antiviral stuff. So let me first explain what antiviral is. They're all coming at me now. Antiviral just means that it is going to prevent viruses from replicating. Think of like the firewall on your computer. Here's all your sensitive information. Here's the virus coming at you. This is your firewall. It stops. Can stuff still get around? Yeah, if it knows the right code, if it can get all sneaky and get around there, yeah, you could still get something in there. But you're going to get significantly less going through there. If it wasn't there, everything's going to come out. You're going to get the full amount of that sickness. You're just going to be absolutely miserable. You'll be sick for a long time. If you have an antiviral, it stops it, and maybe some will get through, but it'll be significantly less if you weren't taking something. So when do you take what? Because they both have the antiviral property. Yes, true. So they both can put up that firewall we're talking about, right? But how these herbs work in your cells, like on your cellular level, is what is going to make the biggest difference when you are trying to prevent getting sick or when you're trying to heal from being sick. So echinacea is actually the herb that we would take. Now, I don't, because I have an autoimmune disease. And if your kids have type 1 diabetes, any kind of autoimmune, anything, do not give them an immune stimulating herb. You don't ever, ever, ever want to do that, because that's going to just increase their symptoms and worsen their disease. But echinacea helps build up your immune system. So that lymphatic property we were talking about, that helps stimulate healthy lymphatic flow. And your lymphatic system is like your super highway for drainage, and toxin buildup would happen in a slow lymphatic system and things like that. So you want to make sure that you have good lymphatic flow and things are working optimally so that you don't even get sick. Okay, so it helps to basically get all of the yuck out of your system so it doesn't build up and cause illness. The blood purifier property, that is going to stimulate your liver. And everything that your liver does is basically kick out the toxins, kick out the bad stuff. So your lymphatic system, your liver, all of that stuff helps to purge all of the bad, all of the yuck. So between purging all of the yucky stuff and boosting your immune system's natural stuff that it does, you know, to help prevent you from getting sick. Echinacea is your powerhouse for viral prevention. Now, elderberry, on the other hand, is more of a, we have been exposed to something, I've got a little something, I might be getting sick kind of a thing. And that's when you would start taking elderberry. It's not something that you would want to take through the entire cold and flu season, because it doesn't do what echinacea can do for you. Echinacea, again, is going to boost up your system to like put those shields up and help prevent anything from even getting in. And elderberry is going to be, ooh, something got in, now we need to kick it out. Now we need to kill it, okay? That's what elderberry does. And the way elderberry does that is, okay, the decongestant property, it helps to open everything up. The antiviral property puts up that firewall, right? The anti-inflammatory, when you are sick, you have inflammation. So it helps knock down the inflammation, helps block the viral load from replicating. It helps to decrease the amount of time you are sick for, and it supports the body's natural ability to kind of sweat, break down those toxins, get them out of the body, and break the fevers if there's fevers. So that is what elderberry does. I hope that makes sense between the two of those. It's very important to take the right herb for the right thing. You may get some benefit to it, and I know there's a lot of people out there that swear that elderberry is magical. It is. It's a fabulous herb. It's wonderful. But just because it's a fabulous herb doesn't mean it's your best option. So take a look at elderberry and echinacea. I would stock both of them in your apothecary for your kids. So those are the 5 herbs that I always make sure that I have stocked in my home apothecary for my kids. I will go ahead and link down below if you want to check out some more information and take a deeper dive on this. I've got a great blog post out on my website that is down there in the show notes. If you guys have not yet subscribed, I want to invite you to do so, because we are going to be starting a fabulous new series called Fall Medicine Making. Once a week for the rest of fall, I am going to be coming here with you guys making a new herbal remedy and talking about the benefits of it and how you can incorporate it in with your family. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when those videos come out. And thanks for joining me today. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.